Ancient evil courses through your family's veins, in its blood.
The rats are everywhere! We've said it numerous times before, but us on the channel are wimps and do not like horror. This is the closest we get to horror. Joe played through the game while I took the notes. Joe liked it and said it was more of a thriller, but I don't like rats, so this is definitely horror for me. Only way it could be scarier is if they were spiders. Be like the rats and scurry on over to ring that bell. I've rambled enough, so let's crawl into this video and talk about what made this game great.
They're already dead, and I already have enough blood on my hands.
Oh, my God.
Innocence is the perfect title since we see Amicia slowly losing her innocence as she is forced to kill and protect those she cares about, while we see Hugo having his innocence for as long as possible. We'll go more in depth on that in the character section. The game revolves around the two siblings as they try to evade the Inquisition and avoid the rats. Or rather, control the rats? The two siblings grow into a little gang with each character being important and adding to not just the story, but the gameplay overall. The story is very interesting as it takes a stamp of history that is gross for the germaphobes and makes it literally a rat nightmare with a touch of fantasy. We quickly see Amicia care for a sibling she never knew, to an older sister protection plan. Amicia never once stopped fighting and protecting Hugo. They meet Lucas during a desperate time of needing elixirs for not just the rats, but Hugo's headaches as well. They gather Arthur and Mealy, the thieves, to help escape the bad situations and learn the ways of strategy. We also get Roderick, who is the pure strength of the team, to help get Amicia to safety and the leader protecting Hugo. In time, even these friends grow to love Hugo except for Mealy for personal reasons. Never once, though, does the hunt for the Darunes stop, as Hugo is meant for a larger purpose to the Grand Inquisitor. As the game progressed, we come to learn of Hugo's headaches being more of a family trait. We couldn't help but find it interesting that when Amicia does return home at one point, she realizes all of the servants' bodies are fully intact, never touched by the rats. Is this due to Hugo unknowingly controlling the rats while still at home? We also wonder how many thresholds are there. What do you think the second threshold will be? Leave some comments down below on your thoughts and opinions.
Hugo, we have to keep moving.
Wait, come here.
What?
It will protect you, and it's pretty too.
Oh, all right.
Now we can go.
Thank you, Hugo.
You're welcome.
The gameplay evolves in a fantastic way. We start out from being concerned about everything to being scared about almost nothing by the end, especially when you get some really cool fighting tools like the Ignifer and Luminosa. Lucas honestly gets the ball rolling with unique tools by his handy guidance and Amicia's precision throws. The simple gameplay makes the game more intense since you are kind of defenseless at the very beginning. Gameplay-wise, you can't have Amicia without Hugo and vice versa. They complement each other and become one character in a way. Thinking of them as two separate characters will make the game much more difficult. If you try to leave Hugo and just go ahead, him coming to you makes things way more complicated. There are some great small details on the PS5, like the DualSense haptic feedback and the 3D audio really added to the sense of urgency when those rats are exploding from the ground and are all around your feet. We can't help but mention some of the character designs. Mealy mentions Amicia coming from money. We see Mealy doesn't even have shoes but is barefoot, and her clothes are all scrappy. Even their little hideout was a makeshift spot. When we are introduced to Roderick, he has a handsome face, and that quickly gets changed by burn scars after rescuing Amicia. By the end of the game, you see Amicia and Hugo have cleaned up in their somewhat royal garb again, which shows the progression of their almost return to normal life. The voice acting is phenomenal, which includes little Hugo. But Amicia is the standout for this series. With only having 2 out of the 3 credits she has on IMDb, she clearly gave it her all. The quiet tones, the enjoyable moments of happiness, and even the annoyed sibling voices were all perfectly portrayed. While we are chatting about these 2 adorable siblings, they never rest on showing the little animations of their relationship, like covering Hugo's eyes or him pulling into Amicia for coverage. These moments were also enhanced by the dialogues about not looking at the dead bodies, or even the sound effects when walking on different terrains.
But can't we help her?
That's why we're here. To help her get revenge.
And to keep her alive.
We got the kid and the rats. We're invincible.
Roderick, he's 5 years old.
The side characters never once felt like they didn't have a reason to be a part of this story. they actually have moments of heart, like when we see Roderick's family workshop is destroyed.
Down.
It was my father's forge, where I grew up. It's where...
I know how you feel.
Or when he is safe, he mentions it is time for breakfast. Lucas even apologizes for lying about Amicia and Hugo's background of royalty, basically overstepping his boundaries.
I'm sorry I lied to you. I thought that Amicia and Hugo might die, and I was scared.
Forget it. It's all behind us now.
Arthur doesn't really say much, but his actions are about protecting the group. We also understand that from a young age, Melly and Arthur leave home for safety measures from their father. It is clear their home life was pretty rough. Initially, Melly and Arthur really only help Amicia and Hugo for the money, but they quickly realize they are their new family. Melly even points out that she wants to stay in the castle. In the end, Roderick and Arthur both don't live. Melly decides to leave the group because of being uncomfortable around Hugo, which is understandable. He controls rats. She also probably blames Hugo for Arthur's death as well. But we don't doubt we will see her again. Lucas does stick around in what seems to be the group alchemist to not only help Hugo, but help Beatrice from her sickness after being captured for so long.
Does hunger always make you this accurate?
Even though Robert was in the game for not even 10 minutes, we see he has a big impact on Amicia. He has taught her all the survival skills she needs to know, like the use of the rock sling, but he also reminds her of the obligations she has for not just the family, but even the future. Even if he never truly finished his sentence, it is certainly implied. We also see him be a man of action. The moment the threat occurred, he took no breath to pause and immediately set out on a hunt for the town, and he even gave his life for the family's protection. This shows the true character that Amicia looks up to. She immediately took action to take care of Hugo by protecting him.
Mother?
You know you're not supposed to be here.
As much as we didn't really care about Beatrice as a personality, she is important. She was a great parent to Hugo, but definitely let Amicia fall to the wayside.
My dear, I really wish I had the time to listen to your adventures, but...
It was a pretty good twist to have and keep her alive, but we wouldn't have been mad if she was dead. We know that her notes about the macula are cryptid, and she herself is an alchemist. She would be beneficial to help Lucas with the cure, but she's just so rude.
No, Lord Nicholas.
This man reeks of a menacing appearance, and that includes his voice. He seems like our primary threat in the beginning of the game. I mean, he practically slaughtered their parents and their entire household of servants. I don't even doubt civilians just to get to what he wanted. We know he finds ways to get what he wants.
I pay a ransom for the Darun children, and I have to capture them myself.
This man was clearly on a rampage. We soon learn he just is taking orders. Don't let his rough voice deceive you. I have a bad boy type, but he is still clearly heartless. He just had a lot of determination as a character. Nicholas did not survive the game, and I truly hope this remains true, as I'm okay with his story ending. We would prefer a surprise living from another villainous character.
Hey, you look well?
Yes, I was in a cage. Then there was a huge explosion. Boom! And then we went to Melly's house. She said lots of bad words.
I heard that.
Not gonna lie, when originally going through this game, I was prepped to be annoyed with the kid on the screen. I mean, I have younger siblings, so I would know, but that changed within minutes of meeting him, because he just overwhelms you with his sweet charm and genuine cuteness. Hugo is balanced in how he acts, and a lot of ways are understandable. He is 5 years old after all. Being sheltered makes him enjoy the smaller things, which he does all throughout the game.
What's that noise?
Nothing. It's just frogs, Hugo.
Frogs? Froggy. There are so many.
He even does cute small things like stopping Amicia to put a flower in her hair, or how he often gets distracted by things he has never seen before, like the frogs. I can't help but even mention his mispronunciation of the aqueduct.
The Archie-Duck.
His lightheartedness is catchy. Everything he says and does makes you want to protect him as well, or even prolong his innocence. We get attached. I wasn't even bothered every time he asked about his mummy, and I know for a fact he asked a lot. We also see how his innocence starts to dwindle around this point of the aqueduct because he has to walk over the dead bodies.
Do we have to walk on them?
I know, Hugo, but we don't have a choice.
Do you think we are hurting them?
Just keep moving, Hugo. Come on.
Which also quickly becomes a regular of gruesome sights that he cannot avoid. Later, when walking alone in the castle in search for his mother, he tells himself to look away and to be like Amicia, strong and move forward because he can do it.
You see, Amicia, I found Mummy.
We also see around this point Hugo embracing his first threshold, the controlling of the rats. The overall development of Hugo was just very slow. In the beginning, he is fearful and only focuses on finding his mummy. He didn't want to disappoint her. Amicia helped him embrace letting the family go when they were safe by hanging their necklaces in the tree as recognition.
Amicia?
As time went on, he leaves his home on his own free will, and as stated earlier, reminds himself to be brave like Amicia. She has clearly helped him grow with confidence. Even in the sad moment of him losing his friend Roderick, he doesn't scream or cry like we would expect from a 5-year-old. Rather, he holds his hands in recognition of his own bravery or sacrifice for the group.
Hugo, come on. We have to go.
Hugo has grown up. We do see him a little inexperienced at first, and then borderline taking a toll on him in the final battle sequence for the control of the rats because he only really practiced for like a month. Either way, it was cute to hear him state the rats have thoughts and feelings, even if it still feels a little creepy.
Hugo, I was trying to protect you.
Right to me!
Amicia is fantastic. We see her doing any and everything she can to keep Hugo safe, while some things we don't agree with, like telling him their parents are dead out of anger, then later not telling him that their mother was alive. In both of these moments, you can understand where she is coming from. She wants to shelter Hugo and maybe not even come to terms yet herself that her parents are gone. When she has the opportunity to at least inform Hugo of their mother being alive, she calculates the risks of getting access to her mother, and at the moment, it does seem pretty dull. She is young, and even though she isn't as physically strong as a lot of her enemies, she is smarter than most, and that helps the believability. She considers Hugo's possible reaction to leaving and takes a stand of not informing Hugo because they are a small army of like 6 kids against a whole city of inquisitors. Overall, it was nice to see Amicia grow from barely knowing about Hugo.
It's me. Your sister, Amicia?
And at first, only really taking care of him out of obligation. Over time, you see she really does care for him. Like when they're in the caverns, she tells him stories to lighten his fear. Amicia just wants Hugo safe because he is her brother now and not just some stranger. Even though it seems grueling when we realize Hugo has been missing for a month with the Inquisitors.
Hugo should have found you.
Even the dream or near-death sequence of her going after Hugo shows how much she loves him and wants him back safely.
I did it for him, and I'll kill you again if I have to. I'll kill all of you! I did everything I could to protect him, even horrible things.
It is easy to spill blood, but to love, to protect.
I'm going to find him.
Amicia takes time to strategize and prep the castle. We see her do so every day by keeping their teammates in a routine of locking up the homestead and moving the rats around. Hugo shortly after comes to her with a large amount of rats in a new hectic level. Amicia sees how Hugo has full control of the rats by just standing amongst them. He also has a body stance that is different than she is used to. She quickly realizes that Hugo is not the same as she remembers, he's basically upset. Amicia acknowledges her faults and apologizes wholeheartedly. In the end, their bond is strong as siblings, and they make way to save their mummy. Once safe, they are happy, laughing, playing games, and just clearly enjoying life in the current peace.
You feel it too, don't you? But it scares you. The true power! The gift of self!
This man is more disgusting than the rats. Literally appalling to look at. Hugo got his wish. He met a monster.
I would quite like to see a monster, actually.
Vitalis is certainly manipulative and the leader of the Inquisitors, as he is titled the Grand Inquisitor. We come to learn that he also was not approved by the Pope to be taking the kind of actions that he has, like testing on innocence and taking over full towns for himself. Not to mention feeding the rats human blood on purpose. He has grown too much for his power. Vitalis has no remorse, and we see he continues to take action. He tries to find the book, and then later Hugo for his own gain.
Your son is the natural carrier of the macula. We are bound by blood now. What do you think, Hugo?
During the time of Hugo being under his clutches, he teaches Hugo how to control the rats, basically for his own pleasure of control and also grasping the first threshold too. I mean, he even tries to show the upper hand or pure takeover of everything by making his own white rat angels. Let's be truthful here though, this is just a giant white tower of rats, and I've seen something like this before in Kingdom Hearts. But in all honesty, he genuinely believes that he is sent to be the unity of the world.
Too bad he's forgotten who taught him everything he knows.
Shut up, you old fool! We're here to kill you, not listen to your speeches!
That's right, you tell him, Amicia. But in true discussion, even Hugo knows that he does not have true control or even access to the macula, as Hugo notices by saying,
You know nothing, but the macula knows everything about you. It's playing with you.
because he's only getting a portion of this threshold as well because he injected himself. Luckily, this man has died, but I don't doubt we may see him again in a villainous return.
Hey, Hugo,
What?
do you think I'm pretty?
You're ugly. Really ugly.
Ugly? Me?
You look like a big fat fly.
This story was thrilling and a great change of pace for a story to be told, especially shortly after us playing Assassin's Creed 3, so check out that video. It was just nice to have a game continue a somewhat historical storyline. It truly kept our gameplay fresh. What were your thoughts on the game? Were you just as grossed out as I was about the rats? Did you find Hugo as amusing as we did? Don't forget to comment below so we can chat. We love reading your viewpoints. It is also appreciated that you like and subscribe. We also have other social media accounts, so check us out. Until next time, stay nerdy and keep binging.